That's when I say congratulations. That's what I mean is that we're here to prevent things. We're here to build health so you don't get it in the first place. How many of you would like to avoid cancer in the first place? Okay. Now, raise your hand if you've been affected by cancer, either somebody very close to you or in your family. Put your hands up high. Now, keep that hand up. Now, raise your hand if you've got 2 people close to you, or more than one, that have been affected by cancer. Now, look around. The numbers tell the story, right? We don't think it's going to be who? We don't think it's going to be me. The data says it is going to be us. In fact, what you're going to learn today is that we all have cancer in us right now. So just, I'll ask you to trust me on that. It'll make sense, and it's not as scary as it sounds. But if you'll turn to your neighbor and say, you have cancer. And it's okay. Because we learn how to kill it. All right, that'll be common sense, and that is the biggest thing that I can do for you today is to give you ownership of how this thing actually develops. Because if you wait till you get diagnosed, and if you've been in this boat, I feel for you. I see it all the time. We had another one this morning who he came here for a little bit, decided that he wasn't going to do everything that we wanted him to do, and he winds up getting diagnosed with this really strange sounding cancer. And now he's off doing the chemo and everything else. If you've gone through that, I want you to know I'm not judging you. My job is to inform you and to educate you so you can make a proper decision, because he didn't know any of this. He hasn't been to this workshop. And what happens when you get diagnosed? What do you feel like? Now I'm going to need some audience participation.
Scared.
Terrified, scared, afraid. And how many of you know that when you're scared, you're going to do whatever option is given to you?
Right.
So if a bear comes running through these front 2 doors, or 4 bears, what are every one of us going to do? There's a back door right there, and we're all trying to squeeze through it real quick. We'll probably break down some windows. That's our option. We're scared. We're going to act. I don't want you to get scared when that happens. I want you to be informed so you know how it happened, how you got here, and then you can make a proper decision so you don't get forced into the rabbit hole that is our conventional system. Just a stat for you that I've learned while I was getting ready for this. Dr. Caldwell out in Germany, and you know the system is a little different everywhere else outside of the U.S. And he does studies and studies and studies about cancer victims, and he said that if you get diagnosed and you go into what he calls Western treatment, so the chemo, radiation, everything else, there's a 2% survival rate over 5 years. How many of y'all knew that? 2%. So we've got a few of y'all that have read and looked into it, 2%. Now the way our system spins that is they said, well, yeah, if you don't do anything, you're going to die. So this gives you a 2% better chance. Does that make sense? Now what Dr. Caldwell, no, it doesn't make sense, does it?
No.
What Dr. Caldwell found out is that they have people over there that choose to do nothing. So 2% conventional die within 5 years. If you do nothing, you have a 27% survival in 5 years. Wildly public information. You can go find any of this. If you start plugging in stats and cancer survival and cancer numbers, you'll see all this. So when I get into how this happens, this is the biggest thing. We have people come in straight up with cancer. So this was our first one. Her name was Brenda. And actually, this is her X-ray, or I'm going to go through her X-rays here in a little bit. So she was given 8 weeks. So she was given a termination date, an expiration date. And she went to 2 of the best anywhere. And her video testimony is all over our YouTube channel if you want to watch the whole thing. We've got a 15-minute version and a 2-minute version. I would recommend you go watch it. She does a great job of walking through what it is she did.
What's her name?
Brenda Sutton. You'll see it. Brenda Cancer Killer. So she winds up going to Cleveland, which is one of the top institutes, and she gets this terminal diagnosis, vascular invasive breast cancer. What that means is the tumors had developed their own arteries and blood supply and was spreading everywhere in her body. Brenda, I'm sorry you've got 8 weeks. Now she had children, she had grandchildren, scared. What do you do? Well, when she got home, when she got here, in the airport, or in her car from the airport, she heard me on the radio. I wind up driving in here. Doesn't tell me she has cancer. Right on her chart, she just says, I want to be healthy, I want to live. Which I love that attitude. So I said, okay, so this is what we've got to do. 8 weeks came and went, so she's under care. And she passed her date. She goes, I just got something to tell you. I was supposed to be dead yesterday. And when you watch this video of her, she's beautiful. There's no sign of anything, and there was no sign of it back then either. She hadn't gone through the traditional care, which destroys you. I'll get into that in a little bit. And I said, okay, well, listen, we need to step our game up because you're not out of the clear, or you're not out of the woods. You got to get in the clear, and the way you do that is you make these changes in your diet. So we're going to get into diet, right? We're going to get into some easy things for you to do today, but you've got to apply them. So turn your neighbor and say, we're going to apply these. How many of you know that it will cost a fraction of time, a fraction of the amount of time, and a fraction of the amount of money to prevent cancer versus getting it? Okay. So Brenda, Chastity, Mary, Miss Kay. How many of you met Miss Kay around here? I'll call them rock star cancer killers. Miss Kay had 6 tumors. She was 72 years old. Came in here on a walker. Right? And her family said, look, if this was your grandma or your mom, what would you do? And I said, well, I sure wouldn't do what they tell you. She's 72. I mean, why destroy the last few years of her life? Go do your bucket list. She goes, well, we want her to live, and she wanted to live, so what do you do? And I said, okay, you've got to get your spine taken care of, and you have to eliminate what? Sugar. So we're going to get into that in a little bit. And then probably my favorite, though, is Dr. Kornick. So here's this kid, and he was a chiropractic student. And I'll just tell you that they do not teach in chiropractic school what I'm going through today. They teach basic mechanical stuff so you can pass the test. It's like if you're an attorney or any other type of physician or doctor or anything, you learn after you graduate. Do you have any attorneys in? I know we have one. Just shake your hand later. Did you learn everything during school or after? Mostly after. We get the taste of the real world. So Dr. Chris, when he was graduating, he won an internship with me, and he hadn't seen any of this. He didn't know anything. And he had testicular cancer. And he had 1 testicle removed. And prior to that, they had taken sperm so that they could have babies later, because they said you're infertile now, period, forever, for the rest of your life. You got to do chemo radiation, mammograms every couple of months. So he was telling me about mammograms, and I had never had it described to me. Ladies, I'm sorry. Prostate exam is not going to be any more fun. But geez, Louise, squishing that tissue. So he was going through it as a guy. So he walks in, and he sees all this stuff around our office, and he was our 3rd person with cancer that came to see us. He had Brenda and Chastity had already been under care. And he said, what is this crazy place? What are you telling people? So we sat down, and I went through what I'm going to go through with you today with him, and he says, you mean I don't have to go back? Think about that. So he cut off care with the medical system like that. In an instant, he made a decision. So turn over, so we're going to make a decision today. It doesn't have to be that radical of a decision. All I want you to do is to make a decision to get your body away from cancer instead of towards it. He decided to fire the whole thing. The idea of another mammogram just could not make sense to him. He didn't want to do any more prostate or colonoscopies. So he starts this whole thing, and today he has 2 beautiful children, all natural. They never had to go to the sperm bank. They're Steele's best friends. We saw my little munchkin running around. Everything has changed in his world. Now he practices this type of care so that he can lead people out of it. So a great story. If you ever are in McKinney or know somebody in McKinney that needs a good doctor, he's one of the best on the planet.
What was his name?
Kordic. K-O-R-D-I-C. So we're going to get unscared today. So it's scary, but we need to get unscared. We need a healthy respect for cancer. Does that make sense? We want to be respectful, not live in fear. That's not the way we're designed. We want to live with power and knowledge and take action. So as I go through this, it might take me about 10 minutes to get through it all, the development of cancer. If I lose you at all, raise your hand today. I need to know that. So by the way, our VIPs up here, these reserve seats, all of you are VIPs. I asked these guys so they could fuel my spit and my energy because I need feedback from you guys. You're all VIP. Yeah. I cannot lose you on this, right? So this is important. 1931, a guy named Dr. Otto Warburg. Raise your hand if you've heard of him. 4 or 5 of you? Charles, you haven't heard of Dr. Warburg?
You will today.
You will today. Lots of biographical information available on him for free. There's books and books about this guy. One of the smartest cell scientists probably that ever existed. He spent his life looking under a microscope at cells and studying their behavior. How fun does that sound?
Yeah.
He's the kind of person that probably locked himself in a room, right, in his beloved laboratory, and didn't have a whole lot of contact out here with the social world. If you read his stories, that's the sense you're getting from this guy. But if you wanted any information, you read his research, you read his books, and he said this is this and that is that about cells. Up for 47 Nobel Prizes. 47. That's a lot. He won one in 1931, and we think he would have won another one in 1944 if not for Hitler. 1931, he wins a Nobel Prize in Medicine for showing the world how a cancer cell happens in the first place. How does it happen? And in the understanding, in the knowledge that he gave the world, it became clear that you cannot avoid this. You cannot avoid cancer. It is a metabolic process that you cannot stop. Okay, so just let that sink in for a second. When I tell you that you have cancer right now, you're telling, yes, you do. My little girl, I know she is making 10,000 cancer cells a day. That's the way that we're made. Now, why do we die from it? Why does it turn into a tumor? It's because the way these cells go. So I'm going to go through how the cells grow and how it turns into a tumor. Okay? There's a little bit of a genetic factor, but not like you think. How many of you have heard the BRCA gene? You know what that stands for? Breast cancer gene. Like they, Yeah, real creative. Coming from somebody in the healthcare profession for 30-something years. It's not that kind of genetic stuff where your hair color and your skin color and that kind of thing. Genes are like a trigger on a gun. All right, I could have the BRCA gene or any other gene. If I'm not doing something to change that genetic makeup of that cell, it's not going to happen. So just go with me on that for a little bit. So how does a cancer cell develop? So let's say Al here is a healthy cell. Okay, so you got all the minerals and nutrients, the mitochondria, the nucleus, all the plasma and everything in the healthy cell. Okay? Now, Al, because this is the way that we work, you're going to split in two and create a second healthy cell. We're going back to Biology 101. What was it called?
Mitosis.
Mitosis. I was torn between that and a couple other osis words, but mitosis. So mitosis. You don't have to remember those big words. In fact, I'm trying to do this as uncomplicated as I can. So you split. Here's a new one. The host dies off. If the host doesn't die off, you just keep dividing and dividing and dividing, and pretty soon we're the size of a house and a hotel. There's all these cells. The host is going to die off. So there's a word I want you to remember called regenerate. Can you also regenerate? Regenerate. This is how you regenerate. Whether it's your liver, your bones, your brain, your skin, your heart, your kidneys, anything, the cells are dividing and the new ones take off. Okay? Now let's say that this healthy cell is put into an environment where a certain nutrient cannot get into the cell enough. Okay, there's a nutrient. The most important nutrient, the most important thing to your body other than your nerve supply is oxygen. Everybody say oxygen. That's write it down. Let's write it down. You can write it, or you can put O2, make that really big. That's your theme for today. Hey Thomas, can you give me some water?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Now, it's not as simple as just injecting oxygen into your cells. Okay? So yes, oxygen is the answer, but that isn't necessarily the solution because you're always breathing in. You're breathing right now. You don't have to think about it. Oxygen is everywhere. If Al, the cell, is not able to get oxygen in, so if the cell starves from oxygen, what's going to happen to it? What happens to you? What happens to you? Yeah. Yeah, so how long can you go without oxygen, by the way? 6 to 8 minutes, brain dead. Right? So we don't want to starve ourselves from oxygen. It's the most important nutrient. There's a bunch of nutrients. There's like 90, but oxygen is the most important. Everybody got that? Now let's say that we block some of this oxygen, or we do something to keep the oxygen from getting in. Now the cell doesn't want to die. So if you start losing your oxygen intake, what are you going to do a whole lot of?
Degenerate.
So I'm trying to get to the thing. So if we lose some oxygen supply, What do you do automatically?
Fatigue.
You breathe in harder. Right? Anybody worked out this morning? You lose your oxygen, you start doing that. That is a normal response. Cellular respiration, the same thing is going to happen. He is going to start screaming for more oxygen. Now, because he doesn't want to die. If we don't provide that oxygen, if he doesn't get it, he's going to adapt. I'll write that word down. Adapt. Or adaptation. So what I'm telling you is that this adaptation thing, does that sound like an accident or something in response to the environment?
Response.
This is not an accident. This is your cell trying to survive. So it adapts. So as it goes through mitosis, this next cell is starting to understand I'm not getting as much oxygen as I need. I better start changing the way that I behave so that I'm not as dependent on oxygen. I think I've got you. I don't see any lost eyeballs. You're adapting, okay? Now, if the environment stays the same, so we're still not oxygenated enough, that new cell is going to divide off again. I'm going to go this way. That new cell is going to divide off again. Now you've got the third one. And it's adapting further because it's not oxygenated enough. A fourth time, more adaptation. A fifth time, more adaptation. Now the mitochondria start to generate energy using something other than oxygen. And there's a couple other amino acids involved here, but just go with me on the oxygen part. Sixth division now is needing very little oxygen. By the seventh division, so here's my dad, he's the seventh and mutated cell. Good. Now we no longer require oxygen to survive. So just the way that I drew that out, does that sound like an accident, or is this an adaptation? This is the way your body is built. It's a metabolic process that is programmed in there, so you don't die. Okay, so what I'm telling you, this is a cancer cell. And there are characteristics of a cancer cell radically different than those of a healthy cell. Okay, so obviously a healthy cell needs what to survive? What else? The other nutrients. What else? Nerve supply. This guy no longer has to have nerve supply. They literally can keep the cancer cells alive in petri dishes with enough sugar and other basic essentials. And that's, incidentally, that's how they do a lot of cancer research. They pull these tumors out and they study them while they're living. Now, it makes sense. If we could get oxygen back in there, what do you think would happen to this cell? It would either die or start readapting back to a healthy environment. What I've just shown you, this 7 stages, that's what Otto Warburg showed the world in 1931. That this happens because of an oxygen-depleted environment. Okay, so I've got you. Now, what would you do with that information? Yeah, if that was you, would you share it, Nicole? Would you try to tell the world? So here's this guy, right? He's probably not the most outgoing personality. You can imagine what his language was like when he's standing up in front of everybody. You know, just one of these things. I like thinking about it, but he was trying. He spent the next 40 years trying to tell the world, hey, this is what cancer is. Now, how much research and how many dollars go into showing you and showing us, the public, and the TV and any other media, that this is what cancer is? What do all the dollars go to?
Research, pharmaceuticals.
So we'll get into some of those, but it goes into treating and trying to kill this instead of any prevention. Now, why didn't that take off? The easy answer is to look at and say, well, you know, all this money started being made. Well, this is true, but there was one thing that happened at that same time in history, and it was called mustard gas. Or anybody know the history of that? You go look into it. So World War I, this chemical warfare happened, and then there was a Geneva Convention. Correct me if I'm wrong on my historical dates. But for some reason, we decided that everybody else would abide by these laws and not use chemical warfare agents anymore. But what do the bad guys care? They're coming at you with whatever they want, right? So in World War II, out of fear that everybody else was using these chemical agents, the U.S. stockpiled a massive amount of mustard gas. Now, they had no intention of using it, but they sent it over on a boat to a little town called Bari, Italy, which is on the East Coast. I would love to go visit there sometime, just for this historical data, just to look at it, just to appreciate what happened. Because they got this boat into the harbor, and nobody knew it. It was very discreet, very undercover, very secret. And there was a big traffic jam in the harbor. So the boat got stuck before it could dock. Right? Everybody been in a big harbor like that, you know what I'm talking about. All these boats lined up trying to get in, and then some planes came over and bombed this boat. Sent this mustard gas into the air, destroying people, maiming people. And does everybody know what mustard gas did to people? No idea? Okay, so it burns your eyeballs, any of your soft tissues that you breathe in, your nostrils. If you got enough of it, it would get down there and melt you, and it was over. All right, so pretty nasty stuff. All right, so thousands and thousands of troops, Italian citizens affected and killed by this. Big cover-up or whatever. I mean, just, I wish it didn't happen type of thing, but it did. So out of that, Yale sent some professors over and some scientists to look at these bodies that were made by this mustard gas. And what they saw was, in the autopsies, everybody's lymph nodes were shrunk. They just shrunk. So they had shriveled up. So they took that information back to Yale, and then a pharmaceutical company got involved and said, maybe we can use this to treat some lymphomas, some cancers. So they started these studies, and if you all are into the history of this kind of thing, again, public information, you can go find it, just plug it in. So they started studying people. They took this gas, made it into a liquid, so they combined it with something, made it into a liquid, and started injecting it into people. And guess what they found? What happens to the lymph nodes of the people that got injected? They shrunk. And guess what happened to the person? They died. They died. But the lymph nodes shrunk, especially they were using people that had lymph cancer, so they were injecting this stuff in. The lymph nodes shrunk, but the person died. They called it a success because they were shrinking lymph nodes. And today, the same mentality is used in chemotherapy. And 2% of trees and bushes and flowers and carrots and everything else, and there's a bunch of weeds growing, and if the weeds were the cancer, and we came in there and we poisoned everything. We dumped all this chemotherapy and everything on our garden, wiping everything out. We hope that what grows back? The good stuff grows back, but what's going to come back? The bad stuff. The bad guys are going to take over. And it takes a while to do that. That's what they're basing their success rates on chemotherapy with. If it doesn't kill you, it burns all this stuff, it poisons you. Now nothing's really going to work right. We've destroyed your metabolic system and everything else, your hormone system. So for 2 or 3 years, you can't do anything. Even the cancer cells aren't going to proliferate. But when the weeds start coming back, they take over. And here in the last couple of years, the people that collect that data have decided that 5 years is too long. We need to set the cure date at 4 years. So we're trying to increase the numbers of survival rates. Right or wrong, one big thing to understand about that system is that it's a free market system. It is a for-profit industry. And we have all been suckered into it. I was a sick baby. My parents debated the other day how many times I was in the hospital before 2 years old. And I'm grateful, for emergency care. But relying on it to actually build health, this doesn't make any sense. Okay, any questions about that? I'll pause for a second. Do you have any questions about how the cells adapt into a cancer cell? Now, once we're a cancer cell, here's one of the other characteristics. That cell doesn't die off. There's a gene inside that gets flipped off. So the healthy cells, when they split, the host dies off. In a cancer cell, when he splits and does mitosis, you got this new one, he doesn't die off. He keeps living. Okay, there's a big gene in there that gets flipped off. So wouldn't it be cool to flip that gene back on? Yeah. Still scrubbing.
No, I'm green. You're
So, if you've been around here for a little bit and you've heard some of the cancer videos and things we talk about, what is it that we can supplement that will flick that gene back on and cause this cell to go through what's called apoptosis and die? Nope. Jay said oxygen. Nicole's got it. Did you say it, okay? What is it, Nicole? Say it louder.
Vitamin D.
Vitamin D.
Which is actually a hormone, not a vitamin.
Which is a hormone and a vitamin and a huge part of your immune system. It gets into a cancer cell. It has to be D3, by the way. It gets into a cancer cell and flips that gene back on. So I want to be clear on this. The D doesn't kill the cell. The D flips the switch back on so the cell goes through its death cycle. Okay, so D3. I can't keep it on the shelf. We've got an unbelievable product up there. It's inexpensive for how much you need, 5,000 units. All the testing we've done over the years shows that we're all deficient, even me. And I'm a sun baby. If you can't tell, I'm low. And your normal rate should be above 60 at least. 60 to 80, 80 being ideal. I'm right at that 58 mark, so I'm taking 10,000 IUs a day. And that's about what I'm seeing with everybody. They need 10,000 a day. So they come in 5,000 unit capsules. If you don't get any sun, or if you're fair skinned, or if you avoid it like the plague, we can test it. It's a $60 blood test, very easy to do if you want to see where you are. But I'll just tell you, I had one person test normal. It was a 13-year-old girl. Out of the 200 or 300 tests we've done, everybody's been 50 or below. We've even had some that are 9 to 10. So to put all that together, if you're making these cancer cells, okay, this is a race, right? They're always going to be there. You're always making them for one reason or another. You're starving these cells of oxygen. You're going to be making them, and they're going to be proliferating. It's a race with vitamin D. It's a race with your immune system, because even if you don't have vitamin D, your immune system is trying to get rid of the bad guys. Once they convert, your brain, did y'all see that video that I had playing earlier of a white blood cell attacking something? So your white blood cells are always getting rid of cancer cells. So it's a race between keeping your immune system cooking, enough vitamin D, and then we mentioned another thing earlier. All right, everybody's got it. If you have any questions about that, if you get home and you say, what? I wasn't real clear about that, email us. Frontdesk.family, you should have a card with you that should have all that on there. You should have our contact information. If you don't, we're going to have questions at the end, and we're going to talk to you. Okay. So based on this, right? So how does cancer start to occur? Lack of what? Does that help destroy this idea in genetics? No, you need help with the genetic theory? Because the epigeneticists are laughing at the doctors and scientists that say cancer has anything to do with genes. The epigeneticists are saying it has nothing to do with your genes. It is a metabolic process. So the whole BRCA scare, the fact that we have cancer in our family, that is irrelevant if you're taking all this into account. So it's not your genetics. Don't fall into that trap. And who was the famous celebrity that lopped her chest off? All right.
Who was that?
Angelina Jolie
Oh,
got
wow.
a double mastectomy because she tested positive for this gene.
Wow.
Well, a lot of people do it, and they're following suit. Why? Well, she's a star, yeah, but what's the underlying thing? What do we start with? They're scared. They're scared. They don't know any of this. So to that end, if you guys are part of a cancer support group, or if you've got a church group or a workplace that has people there, and you want to get them well, I don't charge anything to come do something like this, whether it's on nutrition or cancer or anything. And you see light bulbs going on, and I'm telling you, it saves lives every single time. Not everybody jumps on board. If there's 20 people sitting in a room, it's more like 12 who actually come in, and 10 of them actually start care. But those 10 people are great people. We save them a whole world of hurts. Okay, so you understand the race between the cancer cell development, right? And what we've got to get on top of it. We've got to get in charge. All right. Conventional testing. So we had a lady, unfortunately, the other day, visiting from South America. So visiting her family here. Her family they're under care here. So she starts feeling bad when she got here from South America. They take her to the doctor instead of here, unfortunately, and then she gets diagnosed with late stage cancer. It's spread everywhere, all over her spine, visiting. Sad deal. So when they brought her in, it was one of these times where this person was hurting, just pain on a 0 to 10 scale was like 50. It was just awful. It was heartbreaking for her. So they tell me what's going on, what would you do? And I said, all right, we've got to start getting this pressure off your spine because your spine was a disaster. And there is no such thing as sugar and carbohydrates in your world at all. So everybody write down sugar and carbs. Sugar is technically a carb. And I said, look, if y'all want to live, if you want to turn your body into a cancer killer, another aspect of a cancer cell is that they only need sugar to survive. They survive on fermentation of sugar. So it makes sense if you starve them of their food supply, what's going to happen to it? It's going to die. So along this whole adaptation process, if you can stop the sugar intake and stop the carbohydrate intake, you stop the cancer production. So stop making them. That's a write it down. Stop making cancer cells. Now, which family did that? The whole family did. And slowly, it's tedious. I don't know if you saw her in here at all. She was moving slow. She couldn't lay down. I had to actually stand up on the table and do the adjustment from above her. Very unique technique I had used on her, but slowly but surely she was coming around. And then 3 weeks into her care, she was feeling better and smiling and everything. She didn't show up. And I didn't know this, but she came back about 2 weeks later and she had gone for something called a PET scan, which is a standard, one of the standard tests for cancer. Raise your hand if you've heard of a PET scan. Could y'all describe it? Can anybody describe it?
They cook your body full of sugar so that the cancer shows up.
Coming from a veteran up here, all right, so one out of this room could describe a PET scan. This is another problem. You've got to have knowledge of this. They didn't ask me. They didn't say, or they didn't even tell me they were going for the test. They just went and did it. I mean, I hadn't reached them well enough, and they went for this PET scan, and they injected her. You'll get this radioactive sugar. That is the test. So if I have a bunch of my dad's cancer cells in me, and what do cancer cells need to survive? Sugar. And they inject my bloodstream with radioactive sugar, what's going to suck all that up? The cancer cells are going to suck that up. They have a lot of what are called insulin receptors. They're sucking the sugar in. So now I lay down and get this super high dose of radiation on a CAT scan. But it's actually a CAT scan with the stuff injected. Am I wrong? So when you get the scan, is it radiation?
Yeah, wait, it is a radioactive.
Okay, so when you get the scan, you light up like a Christmas tree.
Mm-hmm.
Or because your cancer cells light up like a Christmas tree. It's a similar type of thing.
It's a scan.
Similar type of thing.
It's a scan.
Right, so you get this stuff injected, you go to the scan, and then it spits out this stuff, and your cancer cells light up like a Christmas tree. Right? So does the medical system know that sugar feeds cancer cells?
That's why they do
That's
it.
exactly why they do it. So she goes through this test, and it activates all those cancer cells that were dying instantly. And this
They
is all,
absorb it even faster.
they absorb it faster.
Because they're hungry for it.
We met her 2 months ago, and she died last week. Because of it.
Wow.
Because of the test. She was improving, didn't know any better, went back in, boom.
Wow.
What are you supposed to do? How do you test? Well, if mammograms are a bunch of radiation on very sensitive tissue, nobody's ever going to feel my prostate.
Me either.
You're not feeling my prostate.
No, I said me either.
You either,
No,
John.
nobody's done it. Nobody's
John
done it.
is even bigger than me. It would take 14 Hulk Hogans and a couple of elephants holding me down. The idea that we have to have something like that just doesn't make any sense to me at all. Or a colonoscopy for that matter. All right? We had a patient her friend, she was trying to get her in here. She went for a colonoscopy. This is 10 years ago. And the actual test perforated in the lining of her colon, and she bled out inside and died of something called septicemia that day. And you don't see things like that on the news. Yeah, it's sensitive tissue. So the point of all that is, I mean, how many of you want a colonoscopy? I mean, my goodness. The point of these things, the point that I'm trying to make is that there's a safer way to test. Number one, there's a whole bunch of blood tests you can do that are indicative if you're losing the battle to cancer. And I'm not going to go through all those, but if you want to get some real in-depth testing, get the Cancer Killer's book as he lays it out. By the way, the guy that wrote that book had inoperable brain cancer that had metastasized from his bone marrow. Bone marrow, brain, and all through his blood. It was over. And we had to go hardcore with him. He didn't only do what we're doing here, he had to go to a specific place to get all these cancer cells killed off out in Nevada. So if you know somebody that's that sick, there are deeper ways to go. We're covering the basics, so you don't ever get into that in the first place. And it turns out in Dr. Charlie that he had a toxic chemical in his body from when he was a teenager. And we're going to talk about toxins in 2 weeks. Okay, because that is another way to clog up your cells so you can't get oxygen. So you don't want to miss that. We had no idea. He had no idea that was it. And by the time we got to Spain, which is a guy that did a real specialized test, he was able to identify the actual substance that was in it. And he got that out cancer-free today. Even those tumors in his brain shrunk. They're gone. He's got 4.5 MRIs in that book. It's a good book. It's just like drinking from 10 fire hydrants at the same time. So you try to keep it to one fire hydrant. Okay. So what are the tests? Well, does anybody know? I like thermograms. Thermography. Therm. Ograthy. There are a couple places around town. Just if you plug in thermography, very inexpensive. The most expensive one I've seen is like $300. And they take a heat signature of your whole body. And so let's say you feel the lump in your chest, and you go get this thermography. What it'll do is it'll tell you if you have an active problem right there. If I'm having incontinence issues and I'm feeling my prostate's having trouble, I go get this thermogram, and it'll show that my prostate is hot. That means there's cellular activity there, and we've got to get to work now. So now, on the other hand, we've had people with cysts all over. We just had one this morning, and she came in and she had done a thermography a couple weeks ago, and so we got her results in. She's scared because she has all these cysts all over, but the thermography says there's no activity. Yeah, it's cold. There's no cellular mitosis. There's none of these cancer cells developing. And you talk about a relief for $299. It was great. So that is an easy one. If you have any trouble finding one, just let my team know and we can help you get it hooked up. All right, now we need to talk about the most important test. So here behind me, these are 3 X-rays. So I mentioned oxygen and nutrients and all these things. How long can you go without nerve supply from your brain? 0. You cut off your spinal cord, what happens to your heart and everything else? Your breast, your body, it's over, right? So in an X-ray, the reason that we practice the way we do is that your brain is up there and it has to get through what we call the arc of life in your neck. So just real quick, if you hold your left hand up, and I know some of you have done this before, hold your left hand up in a curved position. Now your fingers represent the bones. Okay, so here's the bones of a 75-year-old MRI, and your skin is the spinal cord. So touch your skin there with your other hand. It should be nice and loose. Okay, in that position, your brain stem and your body down here, everything is flowing like a raging river. Your body's talking back up to your brain talking back down to your body. Your brain can detect. So if you have a tumor growing somewhere, if you have a bunch of these cancer cells growing somewhere, your body can talk to your brain through your spinal cord and say, we have a problem, and I need help. We need to send some immune cells. We need some more vitamin D, whatever it needs to happen. So this whole thing is happening, and you don't have to think about it, thanks God. Now at night, this is the only system that speeds up. How many of you know sleep is important? How many of you need to sleep more? Listen, just sleeping more, revitalizing your oxygen stores, letting this recover your body will help you turn into a better cancer killer. All the studies are saying 8 hours.
3 REM cycles.
So if you are one of these that only gets 5 hours, right? Better be taking 3 1-hour naps or something during the day. Get it figure out a way. So on an X-ray, we can tell what the bones are doing. So hold your hands like that again. You want them lined up like that. Now, unfortunately, what we do in this country is we torture that arc of life. We take that curve out repeatedly all the time. And right now, we're all doing this thing. So a couple of y'all were on your phone there. And I get it. Right now, Holly's on her little iPad. There's not a whole lot you can do about this at the moment. But you want to undo that as much as you can. So a lot of what people do when they come in here is rehab to undo the trauma from the day. And then, of course, you throw in car crashes and football. Any football players in here? Children with football, every hit is a trauma. So you want to keep that arc in there. Here's a picture. Hey, Thomas, can you hit the, oh, there it is. This was my grandpa who died last year in 98.
On the right.
On the right. Look at that curve.
30.
Now, all things considered, how well was he doing at 98?
He was awesome.
So I show the X-rays all the time. All right, now what's missing here? This is not rocket science. So do this with your hand. Now straighten it out. What happens to your skin? All right, straighten it out. Okay, so in Brenda's neck here, her spinal cord is literally stretched and compressed. Is your brain going to get through that at 100%? Is it even possible? So what's going to happen to your body? Stress out. So this is my first cancer killer, the first lady that came in here who did that video. She ate organically. She'll even tell you, my daddy was a chiropractor. And he died of colon cancer. When he got diagnosed, he didn't know any of what I'm telling you, and he went right into the system and it killed him. So on his deathbed, he told her, so if you ever get diagnosed, don't do what I did. Figure it out. So when she got diagnosed, she knew she better find somebody that could get pressure off her spine. No neck pain. 0 neck pain. So that is 40 years of damage. She's in that X-ray, she's 53. And it's not like we have a great curve in there now, but she's got a ton of adjustments over the years. This is all in 2009. And she's got this pressure off her spine and everything is working. So I've got a little demo here. If you guys here will hold on the front row, and I want you to hold the cord like this. There you go, perfect. And Gina, you get to be, or I'll be the brain. So hold it like that. Let it go through your fingers. Fingers just like that. And then, does it go around?
Yes.
If you guys in the back row, can y'all grab that and hold it up? I'll be the brain. Jonathan, if you just hold it tight there, you'll be the end. So you're the colon. Okay, so go with me though. Let's hopefully this works out just perfect. I'm going to pull it and just hold it. I'm going to get some tension on there. You getting there? Okay, hold it up, Joy. Hold it up a little bit. Okay, now Jonathan, can you feel me pulling a little bit? Let's get it. Let's get it. You guys hold it tight. Nothing yet?
It's hanging up on something.
Kelsey, will you grab it on that end and pull it here? I'll go down there. This makes sense.
Brain can't move around.
I was going to say, how
Grab it. Okay, you feel that, Jonathan?
Can't move around like that.
Okay. So the brain is up here talking to every single organ along the way. And you've got miles and hundreds and thousands of miles of nerves communicating to everything. Along the way are even your blood vessels. Okay, so if Al here is a blood vessel, your nerves actually talk to the blood vessels, receiving information from what's in your blood. Name an organ. Colon, breast, thymus, thyroid, heart are all working in the system. Whatever you guys are going through right now, you're telling me. Okay? And then I'm telling you what to do. Okay? So if we lop this off right here, what happens to all of you instantly? It's over. So if this is the neck, and there's tension on it, and it's getting squished, now you've got all this power from the brain, it's not going to get through here. Think of a Keith's water hose. So if it is a water hose and down to you guys in the garden, what's happening to your garden slowly but surely? Now can your garden talk back to your brain through here? No, this is functional, however you want to, whatever word you want to use. Functional chiropractic is what I'm doing. It's the idea is to restore function to your body. It's not a massage. Mama Julie, would you call your adjustments with me a massage?
No.
Carl? Now, listen, I'm not out to, obviously I don't want to hurt when you leave here, that's not the idea, but it's not a tickle thing. If you do this properly, your body, think about it, if we get this pressure off here, and down there Jonathan has the colon, all right, let's say you have cancer growing in you, and we do this up here and release that, now the brain can get through there, and you guys start working better. You won't even have a choice but to work better, to get more nutrients, to get more energy. So I'm not touching the colon, right? Just like I'm not touching a tumor or anything, we're getting this. So that's what we did for Brenda, and that's the only thing she had to add to her equation. So the whole no sugar thing, she's already doing all that. She's supplementing vitamin D. We got her nerves working, and she kicked it really quick and is doing awesome. And incidentally, she has volunteered to talk to anybody. If you ever need somebody to talk to her, if Brenda has cancer or something, and want to talk to her, reach out and we'll hook you up. If you're not under care here, guess what you need to be doing? Taking care of what? Counselor? You're taking care of your spine, right? So see my girls, they've got, see my team, they've got some specials for x-rays and everything. If you bring some donation, we'll make it very affordable. And if you have any damage like this is somebody with a lot of damage. If you look at her joints, compared to these guys, see how nice and smooth they are? Right, she needed a lot of work. So if you've got that, we make it as easy as we can. You got to come and see me to get in shape. Yes?
If her phone was chiropractor, why was her neck such a mess?
So Holly asked if her father was a chiropractor, why was her neck such a mess? Because he didn't do the corrective techniques. Typically, what do you think about going to chiropractor for?
Relaxation. Be just
For back pain. When you're hurting. And we went to a chiropractor for years, and he's still in business, and he's a wonderful human being, and he's got these rolly tables that you lay on, and muscle stem, and ultrasound, all these different therapies, versus getting things functioning. Right, so there's a huge difference. And why don't all the chiropractors, why didn't her daddy do this? Anybody know?
They didn't know better.
They didn't know, or, yeah, it's been around. I'm not doing any new techniques. It's been around for 120 years. It's hard. It's hard, what we do. I mean, I continually go to school. We're always watching the latest and greatest different types of adjusting in combination with therapies to restore this spinal function. You graduate from school, you literally could just start, going to town, popping and doing all kinds of massages. We just keep going and going and going for function. So that's the biggest difference. And I'm trying to tell them. I mean, we now have 15 offices in the DFW area that do exactly what I do. Most of them young, because I'm trying to get them in school, take them through. We had 25 sitting in this office last night, hearing all this. It was like, you should have seen.
Yeah.
Well, they never heard of it.
No, they've never heard of it. They're not hearing it in school. So I showed a video of Darrell Arthur. You all probably know who that is. Just to get the kids' attention. So he's going up to make a basket. He plays for the Denver Nuggets. And the guy clips him, and he lands flat on his back. And so the camera's, up in the nosebleed seats or whatever, and you hear this crack. It is the almost god-awful sound ever. Well, he comes in here the other day. This is several years ago. And I do this to him. I didn't try and treat his pain or anything like that. I do this to him, and he gets off the table and says, oh my gosh, where has this been? How happy is he? How happy are you?
Very. Oh, what's that NBA player?
Yeah. Can I tell him who you are? This is his agent. All right. His agent. This is the NBA player's agent. Right. Okay, so the blood tests that I like to do on top of the thermography are CRP, if you write that down, capital C dash RP, and then vitamin D. Vitamin D3. They don't differ. The test. That's a $60 blood test, very easy. Now, I'll warn you, if you go into LabCorp, they're going to charge you $220. So we set up an account with them. If y'all want to do that, go through us. Okay. Radiation, then talk a little bit about radiation. Anybody ever seen a burn victim? Anybody been burned? my little niece, when she was one, remember this? Pulled the curling iron off of the counter, hit her here, it kind of rolled off her, and landed in the crease of her elbow, and their arm did this. So they've been under care for a long time. Very clean environment. I mean, they called me getting into the car to go to the hospital. I mean, it was 911 time. Yeah, you just heard Harper screaming bloody murder. I was like, oh my gosh. Put the brakes on, because what are they going to do in the hospital? There's, painkillers trying to stop this. And Jay, do you know what they do for pediatric burn? There's not
There's
anything you can
nothing,
do.
all you do, you just soak them, and then you put Silvadene all over them, and then wrap them. I was in Parkland burn unit for, a time, and there's nothing, and then you could do lots of morphine.
Yeah. So I said, look, just, and I hate to say this, but you have to let her cry. You get some aloe vera, put it on the edges and everything, trying to kill the pain a little bit. And then as it settled down, get some raw honey. If y'all want something outside of cancer, some raw honey on a fresh wound. We talk about soaking it up. But her, so it was at least 2nd-degree burns. Very little bit of scarring. So she healed up pretty good. But there's a scar there. That's the point of this. So she got burned, there's a scar. And if you see anybody that's been in a big fire or something, they've got these scars everywhere. People that go through radiation, that's what their insides look like. It turns these cells into scar tissue, and you will never regain normal cellular function. This guy that I mentioned is doing all this research in Germany. He said it doesn't convert back. It's there. It's scar tissue.
It's dead
It's just dead. So your body encapsulates it and it stays that. So the idea with radiation is just like poisoning your garden. They hope to burn everything just enough, and then your healthy cells can somehow grow around it. Well, clearly they've just damaged your body a whole lot more. You have a lot better options than that. Okay, so stop making the cells to begin with, and then turn your body into a cancer-killing machine. So you want to flood your body with vitamin D. Now, it would make sense to flood your body with what else? What's the easiest way to do that?
Exercise.
You don't want to exercise? The most effective way to suck oxygen into your body and to bounce out hormones via exercise is the interval training that we do. 20 seconds on, 20 off for 3 rounds. This is a basic. You can pick any exercise. You can do jumping jacks. You can do squats. You do 20 seconds as fast as you can, and then 20 seconds rest. Do it 3 times. Then take a minute break. Repeat the whole thing 3 times. Take a minute break and repeat it 1 more time. And you can do that with push-ups, jumping jacks, anything you want. And I will tell you, the first time you do it, if you're going as hard as you can, how many of you get sore after the first time you do these workouts? You're like, this is crazy. We're done in less than 12 minutes, and we're really sore. Yeah. But your body is sucking in oxygen. It's utilizing it. It's burning off extra sugar. Is by far the best way to work out. A lot of research behind that. So make sure you're moving. Now, we've come up with some, I've got a mad scientist under care. He was going to try and get here this morning. He lives an hour and a half away. He has one of these people that has a lab. Remember the guy I was telling you about, Dr. Warburg? We've actually got somebody like that under care. You can get to talking to him and know what I'm talking about. Stuff you're like, oh my gosh, what did you say? He has a lab in his house, and there's a formula out there, there's a way to attach oxygen to minerals and then drink it. And then it gets right into your blood. And it's been around for a long time. It's all FDA approved stuff, sodium chloride. Put this in water and drink it. And then the minerals take it through your intestinal wall, and your bloodstream breaks it down, and it dumps this massive amount of oxygen into your system. Talk about the easiest thing. Have you all heard of hyperbaric chambers? It's pretty awesome. You get into these things, they up the oxygen concentration, they drive it into your cells. You got to stay in there for, 30 minutes, an hour or something, 2 hours. We've got this guy next door who has the microscope that can test your blood under a microscope. Everybody that takes this stuff, their blood lights up with oxygen. It is awesome, and it's inexpensive, it's easy to take. We take it every day, put it in our water. He's got a new formula out that's actually a little more effective. You got to keep it cold though. So we've got both options. The first version, you don't have to keep it cold. This new one, you need to keep it in the refrigerator or it just starts losing its potency. Very cool. So all the cancer killers you see up there, they live on this stuff. So very good. Is anybody taking those? Yeah, have you noticed anything that you could attribute directly to it?
Great for headaches.
Great for headaches. I would encourage you not to look for a symptom to treat it
Well, yeah.
for. You just want to do it as part of the whole overall package.
Of prevention.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are your most important things? Your brain, oxygen, minerals, which I'm getting some of those up here in the next few days. Eliminate sugar. So do the basics. Now we're going to get into food real quick. How am I doing on time? Okay. So I mentioned no carbs, no sugar. So what does that leave you with?
Nothing.
Nothing desirable.
Angry sweet tea. Why is that? So more knowledge. So this is giving you ownership. But why is it so hard to cut out the breads, pastas, rice, cakes?
Addictive. Because they are.
Because you know what it is specifically. You know? Okay. Cells are craving them. Turns into sugar. Okay. All the way up in your brain, there's receptors that these things trigger. The same ones that cocaine triggers.
Okay. You need to give us a little bit of same brain. I mean, there's so much different shapes of brain.
So how many of you ever, well, I've never seen this, but have you ever seen somebody coming off with, cocaine or something? It's pretty
Even
radical.
alcohol is a sugar. I mean,
Alcohol's a sugar.
it does the same similar thing when you're doing detox.
And, after college, can you put pause on the video? I did. I did the single guy thing, lots of beer and alcohol and everything else. And I remember cutting way, way back on that. It was tough. Right now it's easier. I do have some. I'm not perfect. I actually had a cinnamon roll with it. I cracked. Not gonna sit here and tell you.
I bet it was amazing.
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
He's real after all.
Now,
It's not fair to do it.
It was the first cinnamon roll I've had in probably 10 years.
Yeah.
I think Misha and she was teasing me later, and I said, how many donuts have we had in the last couple of years? She goes, maybe 2. My big thing used to eat pizza. My dad will tell you I was a pizza eating machine. Maybe 2 pizzas in the last year, maybe 3. All right, so it's not about being perfect, but today, looking back on 10 years, I'm 95% better than I was 10 years ago. That's how you have to look at this sugar thing. Only if you're going to be respectfully fearful of cancer now, you've got to really attack this carbohydrate thing. On top of starving the cancer cells, you'll lose weight, you'll feel better, you'll start sleeping better. There's about a 2-week window where life is just plain tough. Maybe even headaches.
That's the time to go on holiday. To do this.
Go on a holiday. And I haven't figured out a way to curb the pain yet.
Believe it or not,
So Jay said, turmeric, if you've heard anything about this, we have a product up there called Max GI. Daily Defense has turmeric in it. Cinnamon, right, isn't going to trigger the same blood sugar response as table sugar, so you can do that. But just be ready and get prepared. Now, if you have a teammate, if you have somebody that can do this with you, if you have children, how many of you know our kids are eating too much sugar? Get them on board. You literally are going to have to walk in and say, enough is enough is enough. And if it's in your pantry, don't be giving me this whole thing. I need to eat it because I bought it. I don't want to waste anything.
It's a great way. If you've got sugar in your pantry, put it on your grass. I'm not kidding you, y'all.
So what about bread?
Give it to your compost heap.
Bread.
Seriously, seriously. Give
Well,
it
you
to your
can-
grass with sugar.
You can bring it up here. You can bring it here. If you want to bring me a bag of stuff, I'll take it down to the home stretch. Well, we're in survival mode. No, you should.
That's why I was.
Yeah. They're getting donated things like what's that fruit and juice, all sugar.
But they're in survival.
Yeah, they're in survival mode. So we witnessed them and we have our team's doing their job. So we do some good. But I'll get rid of the old Okay, so artificial sweeteners actually are a toxin. We're going to talk about those in 2 weeks. So just for now, just get in your head, I've got to get this sugar. So turn to your neighbor and say, okay, we're going to eliminate sugar. You can say it. Say it. We're going to eliminate carbs. about fruit? Fruits are high in fructose. If you're trying to convert your body to this cancer killer, you even got to eliminate those sugars. Even though they're a godly sugar, you got to eliminate those. Now, berries are really safe. All right, so you can do blackberries, blueberries, and that kind of thing. But don't be hitting the blueberry juice. You're drinking that's a whole bunch of sugar. All right, now you eat the whole thing. Now, what are you left with? What can you fill your whole plate with? Greens and
Healthy fats.
healthy fats. Way to go, Nicole.
Yeah.
And what else?
Clean protein.
Clean meat, not lean. So would y'all write that down? Clean, not lean. So Jay said clean, green, and fat. So you want organic, non-pasteurized, those type of things. You want farm raised, not. You'll start learning the labels. Okay, yeah, organic, grass-fed, wild caught salmon. I'm going to try and get it from Alaska. So your plate needs to be about half greens. Now potatoes aren't a veggie. Okay. Your plate needs to be about half greens, or a third greens and a half fat. You could actually increase your healthy fat. What's the best healthy fat? Avocados. You can find a way to make puddings out of avocados. If you don't like them, just start playing with it. All right? Raw. What kind of bread do you use? That's bread. That is the sugar.
Carbohydrate.
That's a carb.
How about a leaf of lettuce?
You can do a lettuce wrap. We use Ezekiel bread in our house, but even then there's some carbohydrate loads. So it depends on where you are in this whole journey. If you know you need to fix your body, you don't even want to do that right now.
What about stevia?
Okay. So stevia is good.
Stevia is good.
You don't do too much because it gets
Novia.
I haven't heard of that one.
How about smell?
Spelt is a grain, right?
There's
So that's a carb.
Trader Joe's is a flourless bread.
Brown rice, definitely not. Very good
What
question.
about gluten-free bread?
Gluten-free bread is still carbs. Gluten has this bad rap. It's sort of this buzzword right now. We all have gluten receptors in our stomach, but the amount of wheat products that we've eaten over the years has just overloaded our system. So you get this immune response, this inflammation, and that's why this whole gluten-free craze is happening. You're not ever going to get away from all of it.
What about coffee?
Coffee?
I'm sorry.
You need to not be on coffee. But if you're going to drink a cup, make sure it's organic and clean. Don't be dumping a whole lot of pasteurized dairy products in it.
What about soy creamer?
Soy is garbage. Stay away from it.
Can I have anything?
So coconut flour is going to be probably your best option, but there's still going to be a carbohydrate. They pretty much stripped all the other nutrients out so that it can make something with it. But it's better than the sweet bread and processed bread. Almond milk is great as long as the only ingredient is almond milk. If you go across the street or to any of these health food places, if there's 4 or 5 different brands, they'll have 10 ingredients or 3 ingredients. The only thing that needs to be in there is almond milk. Yeah, with that. Yeah, so it'll just say almond milk. There's one brand that we love called Malt. Whole Foods. M-A-L-K. Malt.
And what is it?
Malk is almond milk. Tate, they have one that tastes delicious because it's sugar. Get the one without any sugar in it.
How about goat's milk?
Goat's milk, much better. Goat's milk, very good. If it's pasteurized, I would tell you don't do it.
How about spring rolls?
So look at the label. Spring rolls, okay. Raw cheese would be best. Spring spring rolls. Okay, so the outer layer
The clear stuff?
is made of what?
Rice.
Rice.
Yeah.
Now remember, we're talking about converting into a cancer killer. I'm not talking about being 100% if you've been behaving. Because like I said, we have that Ezekiel bread in our house with Ezekiel tortillas. And my daughter eats them all the time.
Which she doesn't even know.
Yeah, what kind of cheese?
All my
that?
groceries out of
We've really gone out of our way.
Actually, you know, the kids, if the kids converted like their child from birth, they're not gonna know the difference.
Yeah, oh my God.
They're the blessing,
I know this
you
is-
do this.
I know this is hard to believe. This is what she wants to eat for dinner.
What
Can I
is?
have some more spinach, please?
Yeah?
Spinach and
good.
celery, please.
Because they don't know the
We don't have
taste
to
of
force it to
anything
them.
else.
Spinach is great.
Cucumbers is her favorite.
It's converted to spinach. Yeah, see, that's all she
Keep with
wants.
it, Grandma.
Yeah, that's
Raw.
Well, then we'll ask her, do you want to
No, it's supposed to be
cook?
good.
Do you want to go out? No, cook, please.
Broccoli and cheese.
See if she'll come out here.
Where
We'll
do
put
you,
it to the
where do
test.
you find your Ezekiel tortillas
At
and
Whole
hot
Foods.
cheeses?
Where she came out with a Twix bar.
Now,
Not everyone
Yeah.
knows that.
now natural grocers and Trader Joe's, we try and do as much as we can there.
And
There.
Sprouts is another one.
Strauss, we like natural grocers and Trader Joe's. Steele, what is your favorite food? What do you like to snack on?
I like the snack on. Peanut butter.
Look at his face.
Peanut butter.
What do you like to
butter?
Jig is up.
We don't even have peanut butter in our house.
Says
What
the
did you eat
wife.
last night? Remember it's leafy and green? But that brings up
Working.
something.
I want that tape.
We know you'll have. Oh, so other healthy fats, peanuts are not a healthy fat, but almond butter is. Raw almonds, there's handfuls of those a day, and you're really fueling your body well. Walnuts,
For the brain.
walnuts are probably better than almonds.
And it's for a special, yeah, but you know, when they're on sale, you get your nuts when they're on sale and you freeze them because the oils will not go
When you
bad.
can get them at Trader Joe's inexpensively raw and then freeze them.
And again, remember there's a package, if you get into the bulk areas at the bottom.
Very good.
Okay, so does that give you all some action steps?
Coconut oil and grass-fed butter,
Coconut oil, grass-fed butter.
avocado.
I'm gonna hang around. My team is here. I want to meet you guys that I haven't met before anyway. So if you have any questions, everybody, Thomas, raise your hand real quick. I want to bring him up here. Y'all got to hear this so you know who we just hired. Come on up, everybody.
Yeah.
Make sure you do it.
Fine, dude.
Yeah, stick with almonds and walnuts. Everybody give Thomas a hand.
85 years old.
My name's Thomas. Most of you guys probably know me as the guy who tortures you in the workout out there. So at 3, my parents got a divorce, and I started getting like very outraged and acting differently. So my mom took me to a doctor, and at 4, the doctor, he wasn't quite sure what was wrong with me, so he put me in a mental hospital for a week and a half. I was 4 years old, and I still remember it. And then my mom took me to a specialist, and they diagnosed me with hypothyroidism at 4, and they started to put me on medication. And I still remember the first time I got my blood drawn, how scared I was. I was sitting in the chair, and like when they rubbed the alcohol in your hand, and I was like horrified of the doctors coming in there. And I remember I punched one of the doctors in the nose, bloody nose and everything, and it took 6 of them to hold me down. And so every year I got my blood drawn, kept getting higher and higher the medication, and every year it was just 100 milligrams, 125 milligrams. And at 16, I was on 150 milligrams, but I wasn't happy with how I physically looked. So I have a buddy whose dad opened up a CrossFit gym, and I got really into it at 16, and then at 17, I got my CrossFit level 1 certification and my level 2 certification. And at 17 was a trainer. It's my first job. I became a trainer and I absolutely loved it. I was super passionate about helping people through working out. And then at 18, I still remember it. This guy walks in the door, and I knew nothing about him. He was super passionate about whatever he did, and he always had a smile on his face when he came through the door. And throughout the months, him and I became friends. And I remember mentioning to him, I said, my shoulder's hurting me. It's been killing me all year, and I don't know why. And this dude just hops on to me and gives me all his information and says, please get in my office, I can help you. And then he found out that I was on medication, and he's like, we can get you off of it. So I come walking through the door. I think he's absolutely crazy. I think he's crazy. I've gone to a doctor before, a chiropractor before, and he told me he was in it for the money. He looked at me in the eyes and said, I want to make as much money as I can doing this. This is the other guy. And I sat on this, like, I would get on the massage table for 15 minutes, and then I would leave, and I never felt better. So I was really skeptical when I came through the door, but there was just something about, he was so passionate about what he did, and he had so much conviction in just the way he told me everything. So I come through the door, and I go through the doctor's report, and I remember calling my mom after, crying, and I was like, I think I can get off this medication. I know I sound crazy. She was like, yes, you are crazy. But I'm like, I promise I can. So I'm 19 now. I'm completely off the medication. Completely off of it. I thought I was fit then, still was bringing it. 2 weekends ago, I qualified for 2 national Olympic weightlifting meets. This would be a chiropractor. I'm 100% sure that this guy saved my life and the community we have here did. And if you guys know anyone, bring them to the office. I promise to save them. Thank you guys.
So I go into these workouts, and this kid is like, they're insane the amount of weights they're doing in their forms, everything. So I'm going in there watching everybody's form, and it's just spot on. So with this competition, he's actually being a little humble. But you watch the video, and he takes his weight, perfect form and everything, and throws it up over his head, 240 pounds. If you don't know anything about powerlifting, that is a lot. So he goes into this competition, and he wins, and I see the video, and I said, Thomas, that looked easy. He goes, yeah, it was pretty easy. And I said, don't you ever say that again. How much time did he put into that? Cancer's going to take the same effort if you're going to beat it, if you're not ever going to get it. Now, to put it in a real perspective here, the other kids, and he's 19, so he's in that 19-year-old age group, you get to start at whatever weight you wanted to start. So if I was going to enter, I would start at 150 pounds, and then I would lift that and go up to 175, 190, etc., and then until my max. Okay, so if I stopped at 200, for example, that would be it. That would be my record lift. He started where everybody else stopped. So he's got nationals coming up in February? September.
Wow.
September, February, so we're rooting on it.
Oh, we should see a video of him up there. That'd be awesome.
I got one.
You got
Thomas, play it.
So that'll wrap it up. We got plenty of time to hang out, answer questions. If you need anything, please reach out to us. If you're guests, don't leave without talking to me. Make sure you get signed up for X-rays. We'll share how that works. And help us save the community. Like I said, if y'all know anybody or know any entity that needs me to come speak on food, weight loss, cancer, whatever, I'll be there in a heartbeat. So thank you for your time, guys, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Make sure you're here.